You're listening to When Isabel Met Aviva, a podcast about rom-coms, female-driven screenwriting, and how to break into the entertainment industry. I'm Isabel.
And I'm Aviva.
And this is episode 4 of our podcast. We've made it this far.
I'm proud of us.
I know, me too. And we have I feel like we have a lot of exciting guests coming up in the future.
We do.
I know.
And we started reaching out to a lot more people as well. So we've been manifesting. We have big dreams.
Yeah,
we want to be on the pod.
Yeah, I think our conversation with Carly inspired us to be bold and just cold email people. And we got some responses. We got some no's.
Yeah, we've already gotten some no's.
People.
But I think it's exciting even to get no's because it shows people are willing to reply to us.
I know. Yeah, I know. I was thinking that. I was like, okay, this subject line, this email worked. So
and I did. Carly, speaking of Carly, I should have brought, the magazine's not here, but People magazine, the one with Meg Ryan on the cover, I was reading at the airport, and there's a Christmas film guide in it, or a holiday film guide. And Carly's movie is meant, not Christmas by Design, but the chef one.
Chef Christmas
is listed in the People magazine.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, I told Carly that. I was like, you're a celebrity. That's amazing.
You're in People magazine.
Yes.
Meg Ryan on the cover. That is
yes, that is goals, right? So did you read that article? I know you shared it.
I read the beginning of it, but I didn't finish the whole thing because but
it was a good article. Mentioned Nora Ephron a lot and her new project.
Yeah, she said I think her new project, she wrote it and is directing it and starring in it.
Yes, I didn't realize it was her project originally when I saw the trailer a while ago. Yeah. And it's set in an airport and it looks like a pretty limited cast of just them. What did you say?
That's a perfect setting.
Yes. I would love to write something at the airport. I feel like it's just a really cool place of, just people from all over the world.
I know. I always have that feeling whenever I go to the airport where I feel I like to just people watch and think about where is this person going? What's going on in their life? Where are they going? Where are they coming from? Who are they here to see? I like to just think about it, and I think it's a cool little way that it connects us, right? As humans,
totally. It's people you would never encounter otherwise, who are just sitting next to you on a flight. Do you ever chat with the people next to you, or are you more focused on what you're doing?
This is a great segue into our lives being rom-coms.
Okay, tell me.
Because I always have this dream that I'm gonna have a meet cute on an airplane, and I'm gonna be I'm gonna sit down, and then the guy who sits in the seat next to me is attractive and interesting. Mm-hmm. And that actually happened to me one time when I was in college. Mm-hmm. I was flying back home for the holidays or something. And I remember I saw him in the I don't know what's the terminal or the gate before we got on the airplane. He was wearing a flannel, so first secret to my heart.
Mm-hmm. Flannel is very attractive.
Mm-hmm. And I had that little moment where I was like, oh, that guy's cute. It'd be cool if we sat next to each other on the airplane. And then we did get we randomly were sitting next to each other. And at the time I was on the cross country team in college, so I was really into long distance running. So I was reading, what was the book I was reading? I was reading a book about a barefoot runner or something. But then he started talking to me about it because I guess he had run. I think he was one of those people who do ultra marathons and run 50 miles. And so we had a little conversation about that. And then he took out his book for the plane and he was reading Harry Potter. Okay. And he was reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire in German because he was going to go visit his friend in Germany soon. Mm-hmm. And so he was I'm going to try and remember the language from reading this. And basically I fell in love with him within 5 seconds. And but then nothing happened. We didn't exchange
Oh.
information or anything,
Oh, I
and
thought you were going to, but that's still really cute that you had like
no,
this moment of
yeah.
connection. And I'd be curious, like, of course he probably remembers it too. Like maybe
Yeah,
he
it
has a
was
podcast.
maybe he's telling this story on his podcast.
Yeah, and then you're interconnected still.
Yeah, that was 15 years ago and I never saw him again. So
Yeah,
maybe
he
we
could
aren't
be the love of your
soulmates.
life still. You never know. You could run into him again while like barefoot running. There's a really cute book that was actually adapted into a film that I didn't love as much. What is it called? I think that'd be called like Can You Keep a Secret?
Ooh,
And
I
it's
like
about
that
this
name.
woman. It's by like Sophie Kinsella, I think.
This
She's
sounds
like a famous
familiar.
rom-com writer. I read it like in high school and then it was adapted into a film more recently. But it's a really cute premise where like this woman is afraid of flying and she thinks that like the plane's gonna go down. So she like confesses
Understand that
all her
fear.
secrets to this stranger, this hot stranger who's sitting next to her and she has no idea who he is. And she's like, these are like just like a confessional, and then they end up working together. Like he ends up being her new boss or something after,
Oh,
of course, they
really? That's
survive the
hilarious.
flight.
I was
It's
gonna say,
really
yeah, the
cute.
plane doesn't crash.
Yeah, the plane doesn't crash. It's this really bad turbulence, and of course they fall in love. It's a cute. The film is cute too, but I remember liking the book a lot more. But
That's
yeah,
really cute.
flights and just confined spaces are just such a rom-com trope.
Yeah.
Elevators, cars, snowed in, just being forced together.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
I'm into it too. Yeah. I'm like in real life and in the movies. I'm into
Yes.
those meet cutes.
Yeah, I just love when characters are forced. Forced proximity, I think the trope might be
Yeah.
actually called. And I'm into it.
That's what I really liked about I keep wanting to call the movie Love is in the Air, but that's not what it's called, right?
I
It's
think
a
there is a
flight.
movie with that title, like a French one or something that I liked.
Oh,
But
I like that.
Love at First Sight,
Love
I
at
think.
First Sight. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
which was really, really cute that we've talked about before on the podcast.
Yeah, I did. I liked that it was it felt like a little bit unbelievable when he went to sit down, and his seatbelt
Yes.
didn't work.
Like,
So
that never happens.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like, that's
right.
not how it works. How
I
that
think maybe
happens.
that's a good point. Maybe there should have been a different reason. Like, maybe the flight attendant could have just felt sorry for him that he was next to like a crying baby, or I don't know.
I wish that had been a little bit more just let it just be its chance, and it doesn't have to be the little belt bucket thing. But I did really love how intimate that whole scene
I
was on the
love.
airplane. That was done really well, and I feel like you could really feel the actors' chemistry and what it would be like to be on a plane with somebody that you're kind of falling in love with.
Yes, I still, every day, I'm still listening to the song from this one scene, like when they play I Want to Dance with Somebody, but it's like this beautiful, like slow melody, not the Whitney Houston version.
Yeah.
And it's like after, I think they almost kiss when they're like waiting to go to the bathroom and like freshen up. Do you know what part I'm talking about? And
Wait,
she's like
no.
wiping her makeup
Oh,
away.
yeah.
And like
Okay,
they
okay, okay.
almost kiss, but then they're like interrupted. And there's this really
Yeah.
beautiful, I love that part.
I love interrupted kisses too. When they're there's
Interruptions.
that
Yeah.
tension and then something funny
Yes.
happens or a family member interrupts it and it's just close.
Yes. Classic. So good. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This just made me think about I was thinking about this actually when I was on my airplane flying to Minnesota. Because when I was younger, I used to be more of a every time I got on an airplane, I wrote and it was my creative space.
Yeah.
But I feel like in more recent times, it hasn't been like that. I kind of became more of an anxious flyer. I have to have my routine. I have to just watch comfort movies and I can't write or work or do anything. But on my flight here, I actually got a lot of writing done. And I think I just I don't know, I was just feeling inspired maybe because it was I don't know if it was the timing of it because of the project I'm working on or because I'm in Minnesota where it's Christmas and Thanksgiving vibes are starting here. But it made me think about how I do really love, I don't know, there's something about being in the air. And I'm is it just because we're in a confined space or you're you don't really have much else to do that it kind of forces you to either write or be stuck in your thoughts? I don't know, but I felt it made me think how I got so much more done in that like 2.5 hours on the plane than like some days where I'm like, why can't I just like sit down at my
Yeah.
computer and write?
Did you have internet access on the plane? I feel like that's an important
No,
question.
no.
Yeah, I think that is
Yeah,
a big
that's
difference
true.
too.
There's no distraction.
Yeah, no texting. The flight I just took, I just went to New York recently as well, and I did actually work on my script too. Not for 2.5
Mm.
hours, but I was like watching a film and stuff like that. But I think having no Wi-Fi is really helpful for
That's
that.
true. Do you
But
do
yeah,
that
maybe the
when you're
confined
writing?
space. What did you say?
Oh, when you're writing, like, not on an airplane at home, do you turn off your Wi-Fi or, like
I should. Sometimes I think, yeah, sometimes I disconnect all the way, but lately no, and that would actually probably be a really good thing for
I
me,
know,
just
yeah,
to
I just
not
realized that.
be
That's a
distracted.
good move.
Lately, I at least this is how I've been focusing for the past few days, and I've done this before, is there's like a, do you know the Pomodoro technique where it's
Mm.
like 25 minutes of focused attention, like you set a timer and then it's like 5 minute, you get a 5 minute break and then another 25 minutes, and it's just like a,
Oh, wow.
there's a website, we can link it in the show notes, just called, it's like pomodoro.com or
Oh,
something, and
cool.
you just set, it's just setting a timer and being like, I'm not going to do anything but focus for this
Okay.
25-minute chunk. So that's been actually helping me, but then sometimes even if I do get a text, it's hard to not look at it and things like that because
Yeah,
I'm addicted.
I know. I can get so distracted if, like, I'm writing in the zone and somebody calls me or texts me, or if I
Hmm.
just, like, am, like, I am taking my break and then I, like, check something online, then I can go down the rabbit hole and get, like,
Yeah,
how have,
it's
like,
not
30
just
minutes
one.
gone by?
Yeah, it's not one text, it's like a whole thing. Yeah,
Yeah, I
totally.
know.
And I've also been kind of craving going back to a coffee shop kind of, because I haven't done that for so long. Like I've just been writing in my bedroom for since like the pandemic. So I've been thinking more about like going to other places lately. I haven't yet, but I think it might be helpful to just have
I
a
think,
separate space.
yeah, sometimes that is really helpful for me because I think it's one thing to, like, do what you're saying with the, like, Pomodoro thing,
Mm.
or, like, just turning
Yeah.
off your Wi-Fi, like, that can be, like, useful, and I've definitely done that before where I just, like, turn my Wi-Fi off and I'm just like, "I have to get this done."
Hmm.
But sometimes it's more helpful to just physically leave your, like, comfort of your room or your home or
Yeah.
wherever, and go to a cafe, but then I don't connect to the Wi-Fi, and then I, like, feel like I
Yes.
kinda get the atmosphere of, like, something a little more creative, right? The cafe space. Um,
Hmm.
and then I don't connect to the Wi-Fi, so then I'm like, I'm here, I've, like, left wherever I was, and now I have to, like, get something done before I can go home.
Yes, yes, that makes sense. Yeah, and something I've been doing lately, and I've done this actually for a while, is I use Twitter to keep myself accountable. So, gotta
Hmm.
mention Twitter every episode.
Yeah.
I will go on Twitter and be like, I'm about to outline for an hour, keep me accountable. Like I literally write that and then I'll get
Oh,
likes. And then people will ask me later, like, oh, how'd it go? Or I'll write an update. And it's just kind of this like little external pressure that I put on myself, like, oh, like I have to just do something to report back to my Twitter friends that I was working. So that I
yeah.
find that helpful
That's
too.
honestly smart. Yeah. Accountability definitely helps. I should probably
Yes,
do stuff like that.
for sure,
I'm
for
just trying to
sure.
hold myself accountable more. I definitely have a little bit of a procrastinator in me where, like, sometimes I'll be like, okay, my pages are due. I have waited till the last minute and it's due tomorrow. I guess I have to write this entire day.
Yes,
And
yes. I do find though, I'd be curious, like if you feel this way, if I do have a external like deadline from someone else, which is starting to be a thing, but it's newer for me. And in school too, like if I have a deadline, I'm gonna do it. But if
yeah,
it's just for me, I procrastinate a lot more. I still
yeah,
procrastinate sometimes with an external deadline, but I find I'm more organized and just efficient if I'm like, oh, I have to submit this new draft by Friday or
yeah.
whatever.
I I invested in one of those big, like, wall calendar dry
Hmm.
erase board things, and honestly, it has helped me so much because I put my deadlines that I, like, set for myself on it, so it'll be like, "This draft is due," or, like, "I want, 20, 45 pages by, like, this date," and I think, like, having it, like, right in my face because it's, like, right next to my it's on like the wall. So like when I get up in the morning, I have to look at it, So then it's always in my mind of like, okay, Isabel, like 2 weeks from now, you're supposed to like have like 45 pages of the script and like you haven't started. So like, how are you gonna get
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
um, yeah, I found that that's been helpful. I do put like reminders and stuff in my phone on my like Google Calendar too, but having an actual deadline from somebody else helps a lot more because then it feels like you there's like more pressure, right? Because you like owe somebody something.
So what have you been working on lately? We thought we were just chatting this episode about writing lately, and yeah, what projects we're
Yeah.
thinking of down the road.
Yeah, so I'm still working on my Christmas movie, which I'm getting excited about because it's starting to feel like it's almost done. And so something that's been, I guess, interesting for me is the producers I've been working with suggested to me that I start working on like a couple other scripts to like build out my portfolio. Which I kind of wish I had started working on other things a little bit earlier because now I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, like if we like I'm gonna start like putting myself out there now as a writer. But I think I mentioned on an earlier episode that like when I first came to LA, I wrote a bunch of comedy pilots for television. But then when I wrote the Zac Efron script, that was sort of me realizing that I actually want to write film and I want to do romantic comedies and like I want to be more of a feature film writer. So I don't really have that many like scripts in my portfolio that are feature films. I have like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of television scripts, spec scripts, and so now I feel like I need to like write another like one or two scripts. I don't know what the answer is. Like, do you need to have like three
Yeah, I
scripts?
feel
Do they
like
all need to be the same genre? Should they be different
mm-hmm.
genres? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
And would you ever expand your pilots into features? Because I've done that before.
Yeah, I have been thinking about so one of my pilots is actually about my cafe in Hawaii. We were talking about this with Carly right on the
Yeah.
other episode. And I wrote it as more of a like what's that Mindy Kaling show? The
Not
Mindy
not the Mindy Project or
the
her
Mindy
or
Project, yeah, no,
the
that
Mindy Project.
actually is
Okay,
what I'm
yeah.
thinking of. It's kind of like that vibe where it's like a girl who's like kind of quirky and weird, and she like, and all
Mm-hmm.
these things keep happening to her. It's kind of that vibe. But I was thinking about maybe writing it into a rom-com where it's like about a girl who I actually set that pilot in Seattle actually. So because I wanted to
Ooh,
like go into the farmers market world and I was trying to like
yes.
blend my two worlds of like food and farmers market.
Mm-hmm.
So it made more sense to set that in Seattle versus Hawaii. So now, yeah, I've kind of been playing around with like maybe I should just like take that script and like expand on it to 90-page rom com or
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that would make sense. The
Yeah,
Mindy Project pilot is actually really good. Like, I mean, I love that show,
yeah, yeah. I do love
but
I love
I
that.
really like, I think that pilot, like, I've seen quite a few times, maybe for different screenwriting classes. I don't know. For some reason, I've seen it quite a few times, and I think it's just really funny. And also talks about rom-coms a lot, too. Like, I think
Yeah,
the
I know. I
opener.
love the whole opening, right? Is all about like
Yeah.
her love for rom coms and how
We
like
should get Mindy on the show, by the way,
we
because I
should
love
actually.
her.
I know. As we're saying that, I'm like, yeah, that because like the whole opening to that is how she's like kind of like, oh, I just want to have a meet cute with the guy, and then
Yes.
she meets the doctor right in the elevator. And
Yeah, I love her. I think her project, her filmography is so impressive, and I just think her voice is really relatable and funny.
yeah,
Yeah, and I've read her books and stuff too.
yeah,
Uh, so yeah, so you've been working on the Christmas one, and then other projects. It sounds like to boost your, like, what's the word? Like
yeah. So
portfolio.
I'm kind of curious. Do you have a portfolio? Do you have multiple scripts, and are they all the same genre, or do you have
Yeah.
different genres that you've been writing?
hmm Yeah, I would say they're mostly comedies or rom-coms, and I definitely have, I think, three or so scripts, like the ones I'd want to send to someone to like show them my voice, and they all
Yeah,
happen to be rom-coms and or comedy. I guess Twinsies is maybe one I would send. So yeah, I think I mainly stick to those genres. I do have like one drama that's just a little different than everything I've written.
yeah.
But I don't think I would probably submit that unless it were like a certain producer who was looking for a drama writer. But generally, yeah, rom-coms, comedies, and all features. Like I've written
Okay.
some pilots as well, for like a pilot class I took. And what's fun about pilots is it often, especially if you're doing the half an hour one, it feels like just writing the first act, which
Yeah,
I know it's
it
not
does.
like
Yeah.
exactly the same, but I think generally though, I'm a feature writer and I don't really I like to know where a story's going all the way, and I like
Yeah.
to write it all rather than just be like, oh, season 6, this is what's gonna happen. Like, it's just too much to think about.
Yeah. I
I
cannot
like,
think
yeah,
that through when people like have
same.
show Bibles or whatever, and I'm just like,
Yes.
I cannot like think through the entire like series, like from start to finish of what I want and know to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Um, okay,
same.
but quick question about your
Mm-hmm.
comedies.
Yes.
Are they, if they're just like a straight comedy, are they like
Mm-hmm.
PG-13? Are they R-rated? Like, what's your like
Yeah.
comedy
Ooh.
rating?
I mean, okay, so I think if I were to submit like 3 projects tomorrow to somebody, um, I'd probably submit 2 of my rom-coms and then Twinsies, which is more of a comedy, but with like rom-com elements.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, I'd say they're all PG-13. I actually think that's my writing style generally is
Yeah.
PG-13. Maybe PG for one of them. Yeah, I think PG-13 is my sweet spot. Like you, I'm almost kind of done with my holiday project. So probably a few more drafts are on the way, but I finished draft number 2 of my
Yeah.
project that I've been working on with some producers. So that's really exciting. Yeah, I got a bunch of notes, which is new for me, but I actually really appreciated them and I thankfully agreed with them. So like, I'm
Okay,
not just
good. Yeah.
saying that. Like, of course I would just do whatever, someone I'm working for would
Yeah.
want to do within reason. Unless I really heartily disagreed, I'd probably voice that. But
Yeah.
thankfully all the notes I think actually did make the script better and just smoother and funnier. So I'm definitely, it's such a luxury actually to have like professional notes
Yeah,
because I've never
seriously.
really had that before. And I do think it's making me a better writer. And now that I'm working, like I've also started outlining just a project for myself, just like a spec script, while I wait for some things to happen and get more notes on like the next draft. And I'm kind of missing like consulting with a professional every step because it's
Yeah.
just nice to have that confirmation or then be like, rework this plot device, it's not working. So yeah, I'm missing the guidance a little bit, but I'm still going to make myself outline and just do it, and then hopefully I can either have an outline to hand to someone soon or a whole draft. We'll see, like an actual script. We'll see how far I get. So yeah, I'm back to. I can show you right here. I have my note cards. This is how many
Oh,
how many
yeah,
scenes
I was
I've
gonna,
outlined.
oh my gosh, okay. I was gonna ask you because I noticed I think you had posted a photo with your note cards or something. And so
Yes.
it seems like you outline like physically on note cards, or do you also outline in like a Google Doc or on Final Cut
Yeah,
or
it
something?
depends. I'd say so. This time, I'm going back to the cards. That's like my OG thing that I do
Yeah.
from Sid Field's screenwriting book, just called Screenplay.
Yeah.
That's like one of the first ones I read, and I still consult it a lot because it's just so basic and just straightforward. And I really like that. So he recommends, a scene per card, a card per scene. Say that. I
Color
don't
per
know.
scene.
English is new to me. No, it's not. But and so yeah, he always just he recommends like 56 cards ultimately, although there's some flexibility, like 14 cards act 1, 28 act 2, and then 14 act 3. So that's kind of what I aim for, but then there's some flexibility in the end for sure. So yeah, I really do like note cards. But for the project that I've been writing for the producers, I think I just went straight to a Google Doc, and I don't think I actually did outline like
Oh.
carding outline. So it just kind of depends. But yeah, what do you use a Google Doc, right?
I actually outline in Final Draft, so I never
Oh,
outlined before. I had like professional people like work like reading my stuff, and like the first time,
yes.
it's like kind of funny to me to look back now on like when they first asked me for like a beat sheet, and I had to like, I think I even put it on Twitter at that time. I was like, "What is a beat sheet?"
Yes.
Does anybody have like a format that they use? Because I was
Mm-hmm.
so nervous because I'm like, I've never done this in any like professional way, so I was like kind of terrified about formatting, like what is it supposed to look
Yes.
like? Um, but now it's interesting because I started outlining. I had an idea for an Indian rom-com the other day, and so I wanted to
Mhm.
like sit down and like hash it all out, and I wrote it as an outline, and the outline was about 6 or 7 pages, I want to say, by the end of it. But going through that process, I was like, wow, that was so much faster. And I applied everything I had learned from them, from like outlining the movie I'm working on with them. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally like enjoy outlining now. And I feel like it's like really helpful. So now my process is more that well, from idea, from like first conception of an idea, I have like tons of little random idea, like thoughts that I put in my phone on like a note tab,
Mhm.
you know?
Yes, I have that as
Um,
well.
yeah, and I have my notes organized by like feature film ideas, comedies, and then in there it's like all the different ideas, and it'll be like
Mhm.
one note folder or whatever, like for the idea, and I'll just write a bunch of like little like parts of the movie or things that I
Yeah.
have, and then I do a whole outline um, in Final Draft, and then I usually once I'm getting ready to actually start writing the script, I do note cards and I like put them up on
Mm.
my wall in my room as my like so that's how I decorate my room is just like
Yeah, I
all
love
the
how
note
that
cards
looks.
on the wall. But I definitely don't think I have 14 note card. Maybe I have 14 note cards for the first act, but I feel like I don't have enough note cards now based on what you're saying. So I
Yeah.
might need to like reread that part of
Mhm.
Sid Field's book.
Yeah, it's a great book, and it's dedicated. Fun fact, it's, like, dedicated. I think he was married to a woman named Aviva, so it's, like, dedicated to
Oh my
Aviva,
gosh.
and I'm like, "It's destiny." And,
That is a
uh
sign from the universe.
yeah, right? I don't know, I really enjoy that. So what was I gonna say? Oh, and then also, like, what said Field advises before like or as I'm figuring out what my story is going to be, I always make sure to know plot point 1, which is at the end of act 1, which like turns the story around, and then I like to know the midpoint, halfway, which also like turns the story in a different direction, and then
Yeah.
I like to know plot point 2, which is at the end of act 2. So I like to have those like, and this is exactly in Sid Field's book, just I like to know those pillars, and then I can
Yeah.
like fill in what happens in between. uh and then I also like to know my log line before
Yeah,
I
that's
go
true.
any farther. I'd actually say that's my first step after brainstorming for a while and figuring out what the story is. But
Yeah.
before, I don't have to know the pillars, but I like to know the log line. And I know
Yeah.
some writers don't do that. I've heard some people write their log line at the end of the project,
No, I
which I can't
usually need to
imagine
yeah,
doing.
oh my gosh, I need to write it in the beginning so I know the motivation and
Yes, yes.
the
Maybe we should explain like a log line is just one sentence description of the film. So it
Yeah.
involves what it includes the conflict, the main character. Thing log lines can be really hard to write.
I know they can.
Yeah, but once I have one, it really helps me figure out obviously where the story's going and what
Yeah.
I want to happen in between. Uh,
I
so
always think
yeah,
of it as like what am I gonna see when I'm browsing Netflix? And if I read that like one sentence description of it, would I watch the movie? So
yes, yes. The thing that I also struggle with and just I'm curious about maybe for you, is like how much character brainstorming do you do before you write or during outlining? Just how much do you know about your main characters and how do you figure out like do you need to know every detail about them or does it just kind of come as you write?
yeah, I definitely need to know like their personality and like some of the like just like little things like okay for my Indian rom-com I have this girl who's like she is an Indian woman who like grew up in America and so a she's like not a typical Indian girl but she's like really like she's like more of a like I don't know messy person like she's kind of quirky so like in my I have to like know like what does her apartment look like what's her job and like how is she at work versus how is she at home so I need to kind of understand like how she would react to situations before I start writing them. You know what I mean? Because like I don't want to
Yeah.
be writing a scene and then I feel like if you don't know, you need to at least know like your character's like motivations right. Like, what does she want? And then what is she like? And like, what's her problem or like, what's her flaw?
Yeah, the flaw is something I've been
Yeah.
thinking about more, like for the project I wrote for the producers. Like I definitely fleshed it out a lot more just on paper than I would have. A lot of, I think for previous scripts, I might have just like thought about it a lot, but not like put it in the outline. But I definitely thought about, yeah, like their flaws, want versus need for like my main
Yeah.
characters, like what they want, but what they actually ultimately need is something interesting to think about. And then for a rom-com, I tried to think, well, most of my scripts are rom-coms, but like how the characters challenge versus like complement each other, like
Yeah.
what one character can kind of give to the other and vice versa, like how
Right.
they
Yeah.
grow from each other. So yeah, I'm always just curious what writers do, because I know some people are so in depth and they take personality quizzes for their main characters and they're just like really
It's a lot of work.
intense. It's a lot of work.
Who are these people
Like
that have that much time?
the Myers-Briggs personality
Yeah.
test, which I enjoy, but I've never done for fictional people before.
No, I write like a paragraph under like in my
Yeah.
outline. It'll be like here's a little bit about like what like her flaws, her motivations, what like her upbringing was like. I don't know. It's just like little details that sort of add to like who she is now and like why this time in her life, like what's going on.
Yes. Yes.
I feel like you
Something
kind of
that
have to know all of that before you start writing, or else you'll
I would
like
think so.
how would you move along in the page?
I don't know. I don't know. I think sometimes, of course, and I think this is part of writing, I discover things about my characters when I actually open final draft and start writing. Like I'm like, oh, she hates this movie. Like I figured that out. Like just as I'm she would. But yeah, I have to like be in this person's head enough beforehand to learn those things as you start actually writing the script. Something else I wanted to mention as well is when I'm outlining like on a note card, like I have my note cards here, like it's interesting whenever I have a scene idea, a lot of the time, like just automatically as I think about the scene, I'll have like one line of dialogue that I know I want to include. So I'll like often put that like kind of the line that I know like kind of defines the whole scene. And of course, like the dialogue can change, but just the idea, like I'm like, oh, she's going to say blah, blah, blah at some point in the scene. And that's like what defines the scene. So I find that interesting. I'm like, where does this even come from? Like, why do I know that this, I don't know. It's like, I always have a distinct line for the most part for most scenes. It just comes to me. So
yeah, I'm like that too. I feel like that's what a lot of my like writing notes are on my phone. It'll just be like a random piece of dialogue or something that like this character says, and I'm just like, I really want to like work this either into a scene somehow or build a whole scene around this piece of dialogue happening.
Oh, and then the other thing I'm thinking about I guess we do a lot of pre-work for this, like thinking about this stuff. Yeah, the other thing that I always do, maybe not at the beginning when I was a screenwriter, but now I always think of comps. So like what movies I'd like it to feel similar to in the vein of. So that's just something I automatically do. Like if I have a Google Doc outline, I'm always like, oh, these are the comps. This is the energy I want to try to have.
That is helpful too, because then it helps you think like the Indian rom-com idea I've been outlining, I put as like similar to Bend It Like Beckham. So like when I read that and see that, it helps me like as I'm writing the rest of the outline, I'm like, yeah, that is the vibe. Like that's like the style, like that's the kind of energy I want this movie to have. So then that helps like both with creating the characters and the different plot points, right?
That is such a great film. It is one of in
my
top 10, top 20. It's in my top, like I rewatched that one quite a lot throughout the years. And we would also love to get the director and writer of that one. And because she also wrote Bride and Prejudice, which is also one of my favorites. Have you seen that?
Yes, of course.
So good. So good. I love that. And Angus Thong's Imperfect Snogging, which is also one of my favorite.
You told me about that before.
It's really cute. Coming of age rom-com. So yeah, as for outlining, so I definitely, that's what I've been working on like this week, since I submitted the new draft. I'm waiting for notes on that. And then I've just been trying to I'd be curious if you feel this too. I think it's kind of common, but I feel this like once I'm kind of done with the project or just temporarily on hiatus, I get sad. Like I'm like, like it feels good to submit it, but I'm like, it's like this post-project melancholy that I kind of, and then I don't want to start anything else, but I like have to. So
I feel different and that I feel like excited. Like I'm like, oh
That's
my gosh,
good.
like I'm done with this. I can come out of this world now.
Yes. There's a relief for sure, but it's
Yeah.
also like I get kind of sad because I was really enjoying being in that world, I guess.
Yeah, I do. I think I'll feel that way more when it's like this is done, like the whole project is
Right.
done, and like I mean, obviously, if it's like it sells and it becomes a movie, like that
Yes.
is really exciting. But I will feel that little bit of like, oh, now I'm not in like the world of these people anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So true. It's not actually done for me either. But yeah, just like on hiatus for now, just waiting for notes. So, and then yeah, other than that, so I think yeah, just my main focus now until I get news from
Yeah.
someone is yeah, just working on this, and I want to finish carding and then make an outline and then probably just start writing it unless I can pitch it to somebody and work on it,
Yeah.
all the way through with someone. Uh but I do really like my premise. I kind of like, this is also something I think Sid Field says to do. So I guess I kind of accidentally did this, but I went to like a Havdalah, like a Saturday night Jewish dinner thing last night. And I accidentally, I guess, I was pitching my idea, like the one that I'm writing,
Oh,
to the
fun.
people there. And they were like, that's really funny. So I was like,
Oh,
I mean, they
cute.
could just be nice, but
Yeah.
but they did seem amused by the idea. So I was like, because Sid Field says like practice pitching it just to people around you and see
That's
if you can
smart. Yeah.
consolidate, kind of see if you can regurgitate the log line efficiently, which I struggle with sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or just explaining your concept in a really short amount of time, like an elevator pitch, or
That's
even
true.
shorter.
Yeah. I guess I do unknowingly do that to
Yeah,
friends
and
and
you can
family who maybe don't care or want to hear, but I'm excited about the idea. And I'm like,
just pitch
don't
the
you want to
person on
know?
the plane, just be like, so
Yeah.
what do you think of? Just like go through the
What do
whole
you think of
list
my
of
rom
ideas.
com about a girl
Yeah.
falling in love with a guy that she sits next to on the airplane?
That'd be a funny scene in like a film for a writer or something, like pitching to like the person next to you who like doesn't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be funny. And then yeah, other than that, I don't really have anything to announce yet, but I did get some good news about a potential other project that I'm going to be writing, hopefully in like December, which is I guess
Ooh.
next month. In my head, it's still like I don't know what time of year it is. So I'm waiting. Nothing's official yet, but I got some good news recently about that I told Isabel knows, but I don't want to say anything yet because it's
Like,
not real yet. So that'd be really cool, like a potential actual paid opportunity, which would be amazing because that's what we both want.
Legit, Aviva.
Thank you.
I'm like,
Let's hope it happens.
I'm kind of like, I just have to write more. Like, I just keep coming back to that whenever I think about, like, yeah, what am I working on now? Or, like, what's up in the future? And I'm just like, I think now because my last meeting was kind of like, okay, like, this is getting close to being done. Like, we want to kind of start, like, helping me find a manager and stuff. And then it was like, so what else do you have? And I'm like, oh gosh, I have a bunch of things that are incomplete or just like in the idea stage. So now I feel pretty motivated to spend the next few months just like I'd love to finish 2 scripts over the next like I don't know 3 months would be ideal.
Okay, so I was going to ask like before 2024. I guess there's only 2 more months of
I know
of
I'm
this
like
year.
I didn't want to hold myself accountable to finishing 2 scripts by the end of the year. That sounds insane.
Actually, that'd be a fun thing to discuss, like in maybe like closer to New Year's Eve, like what our goals are for the next year. That'd be really. I love talking about that kind of stuff. I love New Year's resolutions. So, I think ideally, if I could finish writing this script by 2024, I think I'd feel pleased with myself.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Too. Yeah, I definitely have written less this year. Like last year I wrote so much, but this year actually more exciting things have been happening for me despite but I haven't been writing on my own as much, which is interesting. And I've just been working on one script a lot longer with people, which is preferred. Like I'd rather work on one that could be made rather than just
this year has been, I feel like, just like an explosion of creativity for me. I feel like I have
so cool.
a lot of little things that I've like started. So like that's where I'm like I'm not too nervous about being able to finish. I feel like I really can finish 2 scripts in the next 3 months. It's just like a matter of me juggling. I feel like my work and writing, finding that perfect
and our
balance.
Podcast.
Yeah, and our podcast.
which we've been very
when this is successful and I don't need my 9-to-5 job, I'll have more time to write and everything will be perfect.
This would be so nice as part of our future careers for sure.
Look at
we're manifesting that for sure. So that's what's been going on. Is there anything else you have to say about like projects you've been working on? It sounds like
I don't think so. Yeah. I'm just like, I
yeah.
think though, like the main thing for me that I keep thinking about, is that I just feel like really happy and excited. I'm like, I think old
Oh,
Isabel would have been like, oh my gosh, I have to write 2 scripts. Like, this is stressful and how am I going to do it? And now I'm just like, it's fun. Like, I can't wait to like, I
yeah.
have these 2 ideas that I'm just like, I can't wait to sit down and write them. It's just like, I need to figure out how to make the time so that I can actually just write them because it's all I want to do is work
That is
on
amazing
that.
and something to celebrate because I
Mhm.
I don't always feel that.
Yeah,
But when it's here, when you're really excited about an idea, which doesn't happen that often for me. I mean, it does, but not like I know some people have like 5 things they want to write at once, and for me,
yeah,
I think it's 1 to 2 things I want to write at once, and I just like to focus on one thing at a time. I also think that like it's really important to like try to celebrate how far we've come. Like even us talking about having meetings with like producers, like that was not a
yeah,
reality for me a year ago. Time's a blur, but it was not. It's a newer reality for me of just having notes from anyone who isn't
yeah,
a peer. So I do really want to celebrate that because sometimes I think I kind of downplay how far I've come, how far we've come,
yeah,
because I'm like, oh, I'm still not making an income yet.
right.
I still don't have that credit yet. But I think like the fact that we're having Zoom meetings, or I don't know if are yours on Zoom or in person,
Zoom, yeah,
uh, yeah, like that is also something to really celebrate because this is what I always, there's like these cliche Instagram quotes like, am I going to be able to say it right? Just like the old you would want what you have, basically that kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
sentiment. Even though it's not as far as I want to go, I'm like, oh, like I'm not legitimate yet because I don't have like an IMDb credit and things like that. But we're like closer than we've ever been. So that's
yeah.
really important to celebrate.
I mean, I think even just like the fact that we are like taking it seriously and like we're actively pursuing it, right? And like I think that alone is like there's so many people that can't even like get over to that part where they're like, I'm, you know, I'm writing all the time. I'm talking about it. I'm doing this. Like that's where I'm just like, and that's where you really do inspire me, Aviva, because like you're always like you're like so proactive on Twitter. Like you're so proactive on social media, and like I think in this day and age, you kind of have to be that way if you like want to get
Yeah.
things done. And like that for me is like I'm that same type of person. Like this is where we're
Hmm.
twins, right? It's like I'm not
Hmm.
gonna let my career like rely on somebody else making it happen for me. Like
Yeah.
this is my dream. I have to be the one to make it happen. Like I always come back to a quote that like I think one of my friends said this to me once in college and I like wrote it down because I was like, I don't want to forget this because I think there's a lot of truth to this. But he said, no one will ever believe in you more than you do. And I think that that's so
Yeah.
true because like if you don't believe in yourself, it's like makes it so much harder, right? To like make anything happen. And so I think
Yes.
that's where I believe that both of us are going to be successful because we
Thank
truly
you.
believe in
Yeah.
ourselves and like,
I truly believe in you
you
too.
know,
And I believe, and this is like a newer thing. Like, I think I have grown in confidence with my writing more recently. I believe in my writing and myself and my ability to perform as a writer a lot more than I would have years ago, which I
yeah,
think is good, like with divine timing and how we're breaking in more now
yeah,
than when we were 20.
yeah,
Because I think now I'm realizing, oh, like if I feel passionate about a rom-com idea and I pitch it and like I know I can perform and write that. And I think I had that fear that I couldn't for a really long time.
yeah.
But yeah, then thank you for saying this. I truly believe in you as a writer too. I'm not just saying that, like,
I,
I
I'm
love
not
your
just saying
writing.
that.
What did you say?
I said, I know, I'm not just saying that either. It's
Yeah,
just
we're
like,
not just like being nice. Like I truly do
yeah,
believe in you and us and our podcast. And I truly do, like I know that we have this big vision for this project and I think it can come to fruition.
yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, like maybe I'm being delusional, but like I don't think so. Like I think we can make it
No, I don't
happen.
think so
So,
either. It's like, I
yeah.
think like it just all goes back to like manifesting and like being
Mhm.
drawn to energy, right? And I think that's where I think a lot about like when I first moved here or when I first moved to LA. um I was just around a lot of negative people at first, or like talking to people, everyone like there is that mentality from some people who are just like, oh, like you're just one in like a million people like trying to make it, trying to be a screenwriter. It's going to be impossible, it's not going to happen. But then I'm like, but yeah, if you're the type of person who thinks like that and just only focuses on like the negative and like this will never happen, then that's going to be the world you live in, right? But if you're the type of person who just focuses on, but I believe in myself and like I think it can happen and I'm just gonna put myself out there and see. And I think as you're just genuine and you're not like going about it in the like I'm gonna like take everyone down with me as I try to do it. You
Yeah.
know, it's like it just for me, it's all about intention. It's all about like what do you really want and like I think now too, I think the timing is right because I feel more grounded and like when I was younger, I very much was a little bit more naive where I'm like, I'm going to become a celebrity overnight. Like, I'm just going to sell my first script. Like, everyone's
Same.
going to be obsessed with it. Like, I'm going to be the next Mindy Kaling. But
Mhm.
now I'm like, this is probably going to take like 10 years, but like, that's okay. It's like a
Yeah.
slow progression. But then as I say that, I'm like, but it's already happening faster than like
Yeah.
I assume it's like I don't know. I think it's just the intention and the belief in yourself and
Yeah, and there's so much pre-work, like, even to where we are now, like, there's so much work
Mhm.
before, and I think the thing about manifestation, and I think that topic is really interesting and something I think I do believe in. Like, I've
Yeah.
gotten really into manifesting, and, like, I listen to manifesting meditations because it just can't hurt. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, like, focused, positive thinking. But I think the thing that also people don't get, and, it takes work. Like, manifesting isn't just like, "Oh, I want someone to knock on my door and, like, buy all my script." Like,
Yeah.
you have to, like, take initiative, and you have to it's just, like, uh, just really what's the right word? Just really honing in on your goals and what work you need to do to try to get to those goals, and then but then there is kind of a magical element to it as well, but you can't just wait for the magic. Like, it has to be like,
Right.
you have to write, you have to reach out to people, you have to be promoting yourself. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's a combination of things. It's
I
not
think it's a
passive.
combination of hard work and just positive energy. Like being
Yes.
confident, being positive. Like I think that's something that I actually really take away from my time in Hawaii. Something I really love about people who live in Hawaii who are born and bred in Hawaii is like they're so positive. Like I really feel like I miss that like energy that is very like the island lifestyle where people just focus on the good all the time. It's like so much positive light. Like nobody I didn't know a single person living in Hawaii who like complained. Like they don't
Mhm.
complain about like day-to-day things. They don't complain about other people. They don't talk bad about other people. Like that was my experience. I think being around that for so long, like definitely shifted for me so that, and I think that's where I'm like, that set me up to be able to come to LA and like continue just to be this like positive, happy person who like, it's not perfect every day, but I feel like
Mhm.
my experience in LA is so different than like some other people's and I really love it. And I feel like Hollywood is, is just, it's going to be like how you make it, right? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for
And
me,
like,
it's been
mhm.
fun.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Yeah. Should have a whole episode about manifestation. We can bring in
Yeah,
like a
manifestation.
manifestation expert.
Yeah, maybe we should, yeah, have someone
That'd be
teach
really
us,
cool.
like,
Yeah,
see
I'm
what
definitely into that sort of thing.
happens.
And I feel like I use the word manifest actually a lot, even in my daily life, like more than I even realize. I'm like, I want to manifest that. So
Yeah.
we're similar again. Uh, yeah, I was actually just like editing my vision board last night. Like on Canva, I have like a digital vision board, and I was like
Ooh.
I added our podcast logo to it.
Ooh, cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking of
Yeah.
doing an actual, like, physical one. I kinda wanna,
Yes, I'm
like,
gonna
get
have
a bunch
mine
of
printed.
magazines, yeah, and, like, cut it up
Yeah,
and
I have
then
a
make one of those boards.
bulletin board. So, speaking of manifesting as well, like we've been talking a lot about where we want the podcast to go, and we've been bringing on more guests as we discussed earlier. So, what do we want to say, yeah, about the next couple episodes? And we have some exciting guests for sure that we're excited to
Yeah.
interview.
I think something I'm excited about that with one of our guests who will be on the podcast soon is that they're not a screenwriter, but they're somebody who reads scripts, right, for their job on
Mm-hmm.
film sets. And I think that I'm excited about it because I think it's something that I've always wondered, and I would think that other writers think about too, is like because we create these characters, like we create the world, right? But then there are other people who work on set and have to like create like the other parts of that, and it's like, what do they look for when they read a script, or like what are they thinking about when
Yes.
they read scripts? And I'm really excited about like bringing on some other guests in the future who like aren't writers but have a different type of creativity at the time movie being made. But then there's also some awesome writers who I'm like, if we get to bring on some of our like dream writers on the podcast, that'll be
so cool. Yeah,
that'll
I
be pretty
agree.
cool.
I think we're really learning, still what kind of guests make sense for the show. And I think as long as we look at it through like a writing lens, we don't have to just feature writers, even though we do want to feature a lot of writers. So yeah, we're learning what makes sense as long as it's through the lens of like kind of rom-coms, female-driven screenwriting, and the creative process.
Still all
I'm
women
excited.
Identifying writers and creators.
Yes. No boys. Sorry.
Except Zach hasn't responded to us yet.
Zach will reach out to us one day.
One day we'll get there.
We'll get there for sure. So yeah, I think that's everything for today. It was so fun to chat with you, Isabel. And we're gonna get some new episodes up very soon for the holidays as well. Like we really love the idea of really paying attention to the seasons and curating our content according to that. So yeah.
Yay.
This has been an episode of When Isabel Met Aviva. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to stay up to date with our episodes, please subscribe. Bonus points if you leave us a positive review. It means so much to us. You can follow us on Instagram at When Isabel Met Aviva, on TikTok at When Isabel Met Aviva, and on Twitter at Isabel Met Aviva. And we are both on Instagram and Twitter, also called X. If you have questions or need advice about screenwriting, or you just want to chat with us about rom-coms. So my social is just, my handle is at Aviva Pelton for pretty much any platform. And Isabel, what is yours?
Mine is at Isabel_K_T on Instagram, and at It Writes Comedy on Twitter.
Everything will always be in the show notes. Goodbye for now. See you next week. And don't forget to watch and write as many rom-coms as possible ASAP.
Yay!
Bye, guys.